the silent prison, reclaiming your life from the fear of judgment. Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that every fundamental choice you've made, from the way you dress, to the partners you choose, to the entire career path you pursue, was never truly, organically your own. Imagine that beneath all your accomplishments, your carefully curated smiles, your relentless routines, there exists a quiet, authentic voice that has never been heard. It has been completely drowned out by the deafening noise of everyone else's expectations. Think about it critically. How many of your most life-altering decisions have been guided, not by what your soul truly wanted, but by what you thought others desperately wanted to see? This is the silent prison of social validation, one of the most subtle yet most powerfully binding chains the human mind can wear. And in this journey, we are going to explore exactly how to break free from it. Because the day you deliberately stop living for others is the day you finally, truly, begin to live at all. Stay until the end, because the final insight we'll share is the most important one, the core truth that will help you completely detach from the weight of other people's opinions and reclaim the freedom of your authentic self. The ancient instinct and the modern trap. Human beings are, at their core, social creatures. We evolved to belong, to be accepted by the tribe because, for our ancestors, isolation once meant certain death. This ancient, powerful survival instinct still fiercely drives us today. It's why social rejection feels like physical pain, and why approval feels like immediate, overwhelming safety. But in the modern world, this instinct has become grotesquely distorted. We are no longer hunted by literal predators, but by opinions. Our sense of self-worth has been entirely hijacked by the endless comparison of social media, by invisible, impossible standards of success and beauty that no single human can truly meet. And yet, we keep chasing them relentlessly, driven by the terror that if we stop performing, we will no longer matter. Philosophers like Friedrich Nietzsche warned us explicitly about this spiritual danger. He spoke of the herd mentality, the irresistible tendency of individuals to conform, to sacrifice their innate uniqueness in exchange for cheap, conditional acceptance. Nietzsche believed that true individual freedom begins only when we stop living according to the mediocre morality of the crowd and begin the terrifying, exhilarating work of creating our own values. When we dare to look the world in the eye and say, "This is who I am," unfiltered, uncompromising, even if the entire world fundamentally disagrees. Psychologically, this lifelong struggle is rooted in what Carl Jung called the persona. This is the essential mask we wear to interact with the world. The persona is necessary. It allows us to function socially, professionally, and politely. But when we identify too strongly with it, we begin to live through it. We start believing that we are the mask. We forget the true, genuine face underneath. And so our precious lives devolve into a continuous, exhausting performance. Each public act is carefully designed to earn applause. Each word is chosen not for its piercing truth, but for its maximum social acceptability. Ask yourself, honestly, how many times have you stayed silent just to avoid an uncomfortable conflict? How many profound dreams have you delayed, maybe even killed, because you were afraid of what specific people might think? How many vital parts of yourself have you hidden because they simply didn't fit the approved image others expected from you? Each of these moments, though they seem small in isolation, collectively construct a life that is fundamentally not your own. It is a life scripted and controlled by the collective, demanding voice of others. The great delusion of control. Here is the liberating truth most people never fully grasp. No matter how hard you try, you can never, ever fully control how others see you. Their opinions are not accurate mirrors of your soul. They are projections, shapes, and shadows cast by their own private fears, deeply held beliefs, and crippling insecurities. When someone judges you harshly, they are not defining you. They are, in that moment, revealing themselves. The profound tragedy is that we spend the limited time of our lives agonizingly editing who we are for people who are not truly paying attention, or who may never possess the capacity to understand us in the first place. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught that the key to genuine peace lies in fiercely distinguishing what we can control from what we cannot. We cannot control the thoughts of others, their unpredictable feelings, or their instant fleeting judgments. What we can control is our own mind, our choices, our internal responses, and the singular direction of our lives. If you wish to be free, he said, do not wish for things to happen as you wish, but wish for things to happen as they do. To live free of others' opinions is not to become indifferent or arrogant or selfish. It is to understand with unshakable clarity that your worth does not depend on external validation, but on inner integrity. And here is where the transformation begins, when you realize that the fear of judgment is not really a fear of others. It is a fear of yourself, a fear that without their constant approval, you'll find nothing left inside worth loving, nothing left to make you whole. But the truth is, you have always been enough. You just forgot this fundamental fact because you were taught from birth to look outward instead of profoundly inward. The despair of the mask. There is something profoundly tragic about how early we learn to betray our authentic selves. As children, we express ourselves freely, loudly, without self-consciousness. We laugh openly, cry without shame, and dream without limiting the scope of our imagination. But somewhere along the way, the crushing weight of the world teaches us to shrink. We learn that approval is a vital currency, and that even love often feels conditional. Be good, be nice, don't make a scene, fit in. Slowly, tragically, our authenticity becomes a negotiation. We start editing ourselves to aggressively avoid disapproval. And with every single compromise, our true, vital voice fades a little more into silence. Psychologist Abraham Maslow, known for his hierarchy of needs, placed self-actualization, the process of becoming who we truly are, at the very apex. Yet, he famously observed that very few people ever reach it. Why? Because the primitive fear of rejection decisively outweighs the courageous desire for authenticity. We become trapped at the lower levels of psychological survival, endlessly seeking safety in the acceptance of others. Maslow wisely said, "What is necessary to change a person is to change his awareness of himself." In other words, to reclaim your freedom, you must become acutely aware of how often you instantly abandon yourself in exchange for conditional acceptance. Think about how this pattern devastates your everyday life. How many people remain in jobs they despise, relationships that completely drain them, or lifestyles that violently oppose their true values simply because they fear the judgment of leaving? We disguise conformity as responsibility, toxic people-pleasing as kindness, and deep-seated fear as humility. But beneath it all lies the same central wound, the paralyzing belief that who we are, fundamentally, is not enough. We wear masks hoping to be loved, not realizing that love given to a mask can never reach the soul underneath. The philosopher Søren Kierkegaard warned of this spiritual danger. The most common form of despair is not being who you are. Kierkegaard understood that the price of living for others is a spiritual death, a quiet, insidious erosion of meaning that happens when your life becomes merely a reflection of what others expect, rather than a revelation of who you truly are. And the deeper tragedy is that we lose the ability to tell the difference between the person we are and the suffocating role we play. The untouchable self, radical acceptance, But what if you began to live dramatically differently? What if starting today you made every major decision based not on what will instantly please others, but on what will bring you profound internal peace? Imagine how many of your heaviest burdens would instantaneously disappear if you stopped trying to be understood or accepted by everyone. You would realize that the people meant for you do not need to be convinced. They simply recognize your truth and are magnetically drawn to it. The rest will naturally fall away. To live for yourself is not to become selfish. It is to become fiercely self-aware. It means recognizing the profound truth that you cannot pour from an empty cup. When you constantly shapeshift and perform to meet external expectations, you completely exhaust your emotional and spiritual energy. You become a ghost in your own story, constantly reacting to others' fleeting perceptions rather than acting from your own absolute convictions. True, fierce self-respect begins the moment you stop asking for external permission to exist as you are. Psychologist Carl Rogers, a founder of humanistic psychology, believed that the only reliable path to growth is radical self-acceptance. He wrote, "The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change." Real transformation doesn't begin with pretending to be a better person. It begins with embracing your imperfection, your honesty, and your compassion. Every exhausting attempt to win approval through perfectionism or relentless performance only deepens your addiction to external validation. But when you finally accept your flaws and your deepest, raw truths, you become untouchable. Because there is nothing left for others to weaponize against you, the neurochemical prison. Let's reflect on something deeper. Every single opinion you fear is just a thought in someone else's mind, fleeting, unstable, and often forgotten by them within minutes. Yet, we treat these transient thoughts as if they were cosmic laws that govern our entire lives. How many brilliant dreams have died because one person who was likely projecting their own fear said they were unrealistic? How many artists never created, writers never wrote, and voices never spoke, all because of imagined critics who, in truth, were too distracted by their own insecurities to ever even notice? The freedom you seek begins the instant you stop taking those opinions so desperately seriously. Even neuroscience supports this powerful truth. Neuroscientists have shown that the human brain is instinctively wired to exaggerate social threats. When we feel judged, the amygdala, the brain's ancient fear center, activates instantly, as if we are in real physical danger. But the danger isn't physical, it's purely psychological. The body reacts to judgment as if it were a physical attack, even though the only real battlefield is in the mind. This understanding is power, because once you fully see the illusion, you can immediately begin to break the chemical cycle. The dopamine trap. This is the core addiction. Each time you act to gain approval, your brain rewards you with a small addictive dose of dopamine, the same chemical released when you eat, win, or achieve a goal. Over time, you become neurologically addicted to that approval reward, dangerously mistaking it for genuine self-worth. This is precisely why breaking the habit of people-pleasing feels so incredibly hard. You are not just defying others, you are rewiring an addiction in your brain. But this wiring can change. Through conscious awareness and consistent practice, you can train your mind to seek fulfillment from alignment instead of applause. Every time you choose authenticity over approval, every time you say no when you genuinely mean no, or express your opinion honestly despite the fear, you weaken the old neural pathways of dependence and instantly strengthen the new, powerful pathways of freedom. The rebirth, becoming your own source. Here is a powerful shift in perspective. When people judge you, they are not seeing you. They are seeing the parts of themselves they have repressed or denied. What they criticize in you is often what they secretly fear or profoundly envy in themselves. This means that their opinion says far more about their state of consciousness than it says about your inherent worth. When you internalize this truth, something remarkable happens. You stop taking anything personally. You begin to live exclusively from your own center, not from the peripheral noise of others. Think of the great thinkers, artists, and visionaries who irrevocably changed the world. Socrates, Galileo, Van Gogh, Frida Kahlo. They all faced crushing criticism, rejection, and ridicule. Yet they persisted, not because they were immune to judgment, but because they were driven by something far greater than temporary approval, purpose and fierce self-belief. Their legacy is the living proof that freedom does not come from being liked by all, but from being real, unapologetic, and whole. So, let me ask you this final essential question. Who are you when absolutely no one is watching? That version of you, raw, unfiltered, honest, and completely sufficient, is the foundation of your freedom. But to meet that version, you must be profoundly willing to disappoint others. You must be willing to let go of the rigid image they have spent years building of you. Because until you do, you will never know who you truly are. Carl Jung said that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But that privilege demands three kinds of courage. The courage to walk away from who you were told to be, the courage to be misunderstood, and the courage to face yourself without the distorting filters of performance. The mystic Rumi captured this final liberation beautifully. Don't be satisfied with stories, how things have gone with others. Unfold your own myth. When you live authentically, something extraordinary happens. Your presence itself becomes liberating to others. Your courage gives them silent, powerful permission to be real too. You become a mirror, not of conformity, but of absolute truth. And this is the final, most powerful revelation, the one promised from the beginning. The opinions of others have no real power over you, except the power you grant them. They are thoughts, fleeting, intangible, and impermanent. But your life, your truth, your profound purpose, these are real. Every time you act according to your inner truth, you reclaim that power. You become the fierce author of your own story, instead of a predictable character written by the crowd. Think of your life as a flame. When you live for others, that flame flickers, vulnerable to every breeze of opinion. But when you live for yourself, the flame immediately steads. It may burn quietly, but it burns absolutely true. No wind can extinguish it, because its source is within. Remember what the great existentialist Jean-Paul Sartre concluded. Freedom is what you do with what's been done to you. You cannot control what others think, say, or expect, but you can choose how you respond. You can choose to live guided by unwavering purpose, not fragile perception. So, make a quiet vow to yourself today, to honor your truth above all noise, to live by your inner compass, not the outdated map drawn by others, to measure success not by loud applause, but by unshakable peace, because the most beautiful, powerful thing you can ever become is yourself, unfiltered, unafraid, and completely free. The world doesn't need another imitation. It needs your authenticity, your vision, your unique voice. The moment you stop living for others is not the end of something. It is the beginning of everything.